Amanda Batten, House of Delegates member from the Peninsula, has just joined us. So I can get you both involved, Amanda and Scott. Let's get to guns. We're going to have 100,000 people going to show up here on Monday. Amanda Batten will be there. What's the deal with guns? And what's the deal with the governor yesterday leaking out saying no guns in the square? I'm just going to sign an order, ban it. Can he do that?
I just saw that headline about 5 seconds before I walked in here, so I don't want to talk on something that I haven't even had a chance to read the article on. So I saw it this morning in the RTD. So whether he has the legal authority to do so, I am not sure. So I don't want to talk out of shop and on something that I'm not fully knowledgeable about. But I did see the headline that he had proposed doing that.
Are you in favor of that?
It's not something that gives me heartburn either way. If I'm being honest, I don't have a problem with people carrying. I never have. That's not kind of where I choose to fight my battles. I do think in the chamber it was appropriate to ban weapons. Outside of the chamber, I'm
right. So you ban them for other people, but not for members, right? Is that the way it works, Amanda?
Well, yes, pretty much. I mean, technically,
so
members are banned from carrying.
Yeah.
However,
so
they don't have
Amanda
to go through security.
Chase can still come in with her gun, but her aide cannot. Is that
technically, no, she can't. But
there's no penalty.
There's
for
no
her
penalty
doing
for her
That's
doing
correct.
so.
Yeah.
Okay, so because she had her gun.
Yeah.
She had her gun. So it's a technicality. So no.
Right.
In other words, nobody's going to do anything about it.
Right.
Right. So you're not going to handcuff Amanda Chase in the Senate.
Right.
And hold her off to jail.
No.
No.
So why do you just? I only have a couple minutes here, Scott. But I just want to get to this.
Yeah.
Where's the Democratic caucus going with this? I mean, we're going to have 100,000 people out here. It's going to make national and international news on Monday.
Sure.
Where are you guys going with this?
I think we're going with the proposals that we've been advocating for the last couple of years, which the core package of is the 8 bills that we put forward during the special session in June or July. The universal background checks, mandatory reporting loss of stolen weapons, 1 handgun a month, that kind of core package. That's where it's going. I mean, it's trying to ensure that people who shouldn't have guns don't have guns, and it's not about confiscation, and it's not about infringing on the Second Amendment. And it's not about if I can broaden out.
You say that, but then you got Mark Levine running around on CNN saying that this is going to be the biggest gun legislation ever in the history of the United States. I mean, that's what your people are saying. Dick Zaslow drops a bill upstairs to basically you can't have an automatic pistol, a semi-automatic pistol, can't have a semi-automatic rifle, can't have over 10 mags.
And he struck that bill, and that bill wouldn't have passed. And that bill wouldn't have passed. And he struck it because it wouldn't have passed. We're going with those core proposals, and
so
I
universal
actually would like
background checks. Yeah. Red flag, what else?
1 handgun a month.
That's it.
A lot of this stuff, if you go talk to average people on the street, they already think we do it. When you tell people that we don't have mandatory reporting of lost and stolen weapons, they're shocked. Yeah. They say this isn't already a bill. And if I could broaden it out just real briefly.
Yes, please.
I think one thing that gets lost in this, if we go back 2 years to right when the Parkland shooting happened, and the speaker put the Select Committee on School Safety together, and I was on that. And Jeff Bourne from the city, Mike Mullen from Newport News, and myself came out with a series of proposals about what we thought school safety was, right? And we argued then, and I think this is true of kind of the broader kind of public safety issue, we argued then that, look, if you want to make schools safer, it's a series of things, right? It is one part gun violence prevention, because we know that a lot of the kids that where there's school shootings, they got that gun from a family's house or a friend's house. So it is one part gun violence prevention, but it's one part not that. It's one part school counselors, which one of the big things that I'm happy about in the budget is that proposal for getting to that 1 in 250 ratio for school counselors got in the budget, because school counselors, they're important for academic health, but they're also important for cultural and social health of the kids in the school community. It's about the correct relationship between schools and law enforcement to make sure that they're both doing the job they're supposed to be doing. Law enforcement are in schools to protect people. School administrators are in schools to do the school discipline and making sure that they are doing the job that they're doing. And so you look at, we took this kind of broad range. It is one part about some of these bills. We should have mandatory reporting of lost and stolen weapons. But it's all these other things too, and their accumulation of this makes schools safer.
If you passed report stolen weapons, universal background check, and I'll get Amanda here involved.
Yep.
And red flag laws, beef that up a little bit. No gun confiscation, no limit of magazines, no limit of semi-automatic pistols or rifles. I guess, 80% 70% of Virginians agree with that. We could probably live with that. But everybody is suspect that that's not where you're going because of the other bills you put in, and then you say, well, they're not going to pass. Well, what'd you put them in? So, Amanda, weigh in here. Help me out.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think that, the dialogue is out there that, yeah, we're trying to act in good faith. We've got some common sense gun policies. But the reality is the first bill that really came out that folks saw was an overreaching Senate bill, Senator Saslaw, Senate Bill 16. And so folks are really suspicious now. And I think that everything that has transpired here on the Capitol in the past week has done nothing to mitigate their concerns. When they see that, right out of the gate, we're not allowed to, have firearms in the Capitol or in the legislative building, and the way in which it's done, kind of a closed-door meeting with no agenda put forward in advance, so no opportunity for public input. Folks don't like that. Transparency is a big deal to most folks. I think also, the governor's announcement or leaking that he was going to try to ban guns on Capitol Square, that's just another step where people wake up and they're thinking, well, wait a minute. Yesterday I was planning my trip to Richmond on Monday, thinking I was going to be able to, carry my weapon, just not in the Capitol or in the legislative building. And suddenly now it's banned. It's just one thing after another where I feel like a lot of the Second Amendment supporters don't feel like the Democrats are acting in good faith.
We got to get to the bottom of the hour. Skylar, you sound reasonable, but Second Amendment advocates don't believe you guys because of the stuff you put in. And now what you're doing on Monday. So that's easier. I got to get to the bottom of the hour, Mike. Also with us is House of Delegates member, freshman Republican Amanda Batten. She's on the peninsula. Amanda, welcome again.
Thanks for having me.
Look, you get Skylar Van Valkenburg, high school teacher, reasonable guy, basically a moderate, somewhat of a centrist, says, look, all we want to do on guns is we want to get a universal background check so there's no loopholes. We want to do a little red flag in case somebody, has a problem. We want due process with that. Look, if your gun is stolen, we want you to report it because it could fall in the wrong hands. Just things like that. We talked about the Dan Helmer bill, the banning shooting ranges. He said that'll never get out of committee. He said the Saslaw bill was ridiculous. He said, we don't want to do any of that. But the problem is nobody believes them because then you got the governor last night leaking out that he's going to ban guns in the square. Right. So nobody believes you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And I think that they've done themselves a disservice over there because I did hear on the campaign trail, well, even from some of my conservative friends, maybe there's a couple things we might be interested in looking at, but there wasn't, even back then, a lot of confidence that there wouldn't be overreach. And so I think right now what we're seeing is that level of overreach. I don't know if there was overconfidence. I don't know exactly what the strategy was. Sometimes, and you know this because you've been around for a long time, sometimes legislators put in a really crazy bill, right? And everyone goes nuts over it and says, this is awful. And then when they dial it back down a little bit or ratchet it down or something comes out that's less bad than that original legislation, then it kind of feels like a win for everyone, even though bad legislation still passed. So in my mind, I kind of look at it like, this extreme bill was put in.
So it's flood the zone strategy.
Yeah.
Like flood the zone, and then the worst comes out, and you feel like, well, that's not as bad because compared to what it was, it would have never passed anyway. Sure. So that's how they creep it along.
Yeah.
Very good. I never thought of that. That's probably what the strategy is. Flood the zone. Get all the stuff out there and then pass something. And
we've actually already seen a little bit of that. I'm sure you've followed on social media. But, Senate Bill 16, the Saslaw bill, really was the headline grabber out there. And as you're aware, it died earlier this week. And for a while on social media, there was all this celebrating, like, yeah, Senate Bill 16 is gone. And that's true. But there's multiple other bills out there that are equally as bad or, have elements of that original bad legislation.
Right. But it grabbed the headlines like, okay, we're through that.
Right.
We're through that.
But the reality is all that legislation is still out there, just in a different form.
Right. Okay, so what happens now?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think that it was a horrible mistake for the governor to come out and say he was banning guns in Capitol Square. I think it further adds to the distrust that exists. Right. And frankly, logistically, I have no idea how that plays out. Are they going to cordon off Capitol Square, put metal detectors all around it?
It makes no sense. I mean, it makes no sense. And again, it's the problem with Ralph Northam is nobody believes any of his intentions are authentic.
Right.
I mean, that's the best way for me to put it. I mean, I know the guy well. I've had him on my show a million times. I was a supporter of his for a while, but nothing he does is apolitical. Everything he does is for his own benefit. And so this, again, is just another thing. But it's you're not going to be able to implement it, and then it turns into a fiasco with people getting hauled off to jail.
Right.
For nothing.
Exactly. And, the reality is it's not the policy, if it's imposed, is not going to stop someone with ill intent from coming up and breaking the law.
Exactly.
Because if you have ill intent, you're already planning on breaking the law. Another law is not going to stop you.
Right.
So, you're going to have law-abiding gun owners who are, certainly not going to be carrying when they had planned to. And, I don't know how the whole day is going to play out, but certainly did absolutely nothing to inspire confidence or trust in the administration.
He did the exact opposite. Andrew Vehorn pops in with us, part of the Andrews Army, John Fredericks Network.
Good morning, John.
Yes, is here. We're with Amanda Batten. Andrew, Amanda's position here was they're flooding the zone, basically. And so Saslow says no magazine over 10. Then they passed no magazine over 50, and we all think it's a victory. But the goal was no magazine over 50, so they could just get it on the books, and then it'll go from 50 to 20 to 10 to 0. What do you think about that?
That's the problem. To get the camel's nose under the tent, once it's in the code, it's very easy to change a number.
Right, and Amanda, I'm so happy you said that because I really hadn't looked at it that way. And obviously, a lot of other people didn't, because when SB 16 went down, people were doing a victory dance, where that was basically a ploy.
Right.
That was according to you. Okay, let's get to some other big issues coming up, Amanda. ERA is going to pass today. Here's my position. Who the hell cares? Things expired 50 years, 40 years ago. I mean, I remember the ERA debate when I was in high school, and I graduated in 1975, right? I mean, give me a break. Like, who cares?
Yeah, that's kind of where I come from, especially as a woman. I certainly have never felt the need for the ERA to be successful or pursue the goals in my own life. And I think more importantly, when an institution such as the Washington Post comes out last week and says, this is actually legally dead, even if you pass it, Virginia, it doesn't matter. It's just a waste of time.
It's a waste of time.
And you know what? I would just like to say we are so far behind up here legislatively this year that we do not need to be working on something like this.
Poor leadership?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you have a change in leadership, there's always a learning curve, and for a variety of reasons.
That's such a diplomatic way of saying
it.
So you're not going to say it's a fiasco with caucus of the corn. That's not what you're going to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's just difficult. I've been up here for about 10 years now, first as a legislative aide, and of course now as a legislator, and we are off to an incredibly slow start, and I dread that crossover deadline because it's not going to be pretty.
I think one of the toughest things, Andrew, and we got a couple minutes here before Tim Kaine calls in. I like Eileen Filler-Corn. I make fun of her, caucus of the corn, whatever. But, she got a very funky leadership style. It's not Bill Howell. It's not Kirk Cox. It's not Dick Saslaw. It's not Tommy Norman. I mean, she wants kumbaya and get everybody happy and, get a consensus. And with all these freshmen and 2-year people, you can't lead that way. Let me get your response, and then I have to get on Tim Kaine.
Consensus building is great. It's great to have everybody on the same page, but it's got to make sense. You can ask Tim Kaine. He had to wait in line yesterday when he tried to bring donuts to the building. So.
He did. I saw the picture of waiting in line, but Amanda Chase was able to get right through, right? So there is hope. All right, Amanda Batten.